Well, we have no hall monitor today. Bless Nathan had to go to the airport, so we're
Yeah,
on our own. It's
you're
party
you're.
time with Titus.
I was gonna say, you're Nick. You're our leader. And Nick and others, whenever there's a right time to do this, I went back to my Ovid and found the story of Procne and Philomel, and of course there's another similarity in how that story plays out, which is the vengeance the sisters wreak on Procne's husband, who has raped Philomel and cut out her tongue. The vengeance they wreak on him is they kill. Procne kills her son, the son she has had with Tereus, her husband, and she and Philomel cook him up in a pie and serve him to Tereus. So, and I've been thinking a lot about cannibalism this week, and I'll say more about it maybe another time. But it's very or not, but it's very interesting because there's that through line that Shakespeare calls such attention to in the scene where Lavinia is chasing down young Lucius and grabbing his copy of Ovid. And even though we aren't looking at that scene, this notion of cannibalism as an essential part of revenge is clearly very old and very visceral and very and goes right on through to you know Game of Thrones.
Do you know,
So
Miranda, did they teach Ovid, and they must have taught that in Elizabethan England, sort
oh,
of in schools.
absolutely, yeah, absolutely. We know for sure that Shakespeare would have read Ovid in Latin in his grammar school, his so-called that he would have. That was a pretty standard text. That and Virgil he would have read in Latin, and so he was very familiar with the Metamorphoses.
Yeah, because this play was so popular that the audience must have, known about all these tales when they walked into the theater.
I think so too. Yeah, I think so too. Mm, mm,
Interesting. Very
mhm,
cool. Well, what I
mm,
wanted to do today is go
mm.
through just sort of section by section and take a look at the verse and look for, look for discrepancies and look for feminine endings and changes that hints that Shakespeare gives us and see what we can find with the poetry a little bit. And would you mind if we started off with Angie reading Titus and Charlotte, do you want to read Tamara in the first section for us? Is that okay, gentlemen? And then please,
Whatever.
as we
Sure.
discuss, I would love everybody's input, of course.
Anything is okay. Let's play.
I'm so sorry, Nick. What a pain
Yeah,
I'm being. I promise to stop talking. I had a couple of very quick pronunciation notes since we're going to go through. Just a
please.
reminder that word wreakful vengeance. And I don't have my script right up in front of me, but it's early on. Uh, anyway, wreakful vengeance. It's Tamara's line about 31:2-3. By working wreakful vengeance on thy foes. Wreakful means vengeful, so it's vengeful vengeance.
Oh, wow.
Uh, yeah, and then the other one is rapine, and that I've double and triple checked, but just it's really more of a spondy. It's almost an equal stress on both syllables, but weighted on the first rapine. Um,
So it's not
that's it.
rapine, it's rapine.
It's some more recent pronunciations. Rapine is fine, and I think that's perfectly acceptable. The OP was rapine,
Hmm.
but I think rapine is fine as long as we hit that first syllable just a little bit more for the meter.
Bun is really more clear, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah,
you hear it for what it is. Yeah.
I agree. I agree. Yeah, and yeah, we can do that. I think if Nick and others agree, that's where I step back. I'm not an actor.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, let's just start at the top and read that first section if you wouldn't mind, Charlotte, and let's see if there's what the verse is doing in here.
Thus, in this strange and sad habiliment, I will encounter with Andronicus. and say I am revenge, sent from below to join with him and right his heinous wrongs. Knock at his study, where they say he keeps to ruminate strange plots of dire revenge. Tell him revenge is come to join with him and work confusion on his enemies.
Who doth molest my contemplation? Is it your trick to make me ope the door, that so my sad decrees may fly away, and all my study be to no effect? You are deceived, for what I mean to do, see here in bloody lines I have set down, and what is
Okay.
written shall be executed.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Angie. Let's just look at the very first section at Tamara's line here. Miranda, what exactly is there's a lot of people watching this that aren't Shakespearean experts, including myself. What exactly is a habiliment?
Clothing, but with a sense, with a connotation of sort of costume. In other words, not sort of everyday clothing. There's something distinct about it. I can see what the third Arden, if they have anything to add. Yeah. Mhm.
And we had a discussion, Angie, you were saying last week that sad doesn't necessarily mean the emotion, right? It's more to do perhaps the color,
Yeah, so weird,
strange,
mournful, yeah.
My notes
Yeah,
say
dark.
dismal.
dismal.
Yeah,
Dismal.
Yeah, that's a good word.
perfect.
Dismal costume.
Yeah, the Arden says from the OAD, dark colored, so dark colored, somber um, clothing, and it doesn't say anything about habiliments. So I'm going with clothing, but with a connotation of something of a costume.
There's a lot of discussion of darkness in this scene. He talks about black as jet later on. It reminds me of the Scottish play a little bit since we were talking about that earlier. There is a
Mm-hmm.
candle theme. There is a light and dark theme with this show, isn't there?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so the verse seems pretty straightforward here. I didn't see anything sticking out. It's just good old-fashioned straight up 5 beats.
Well, if you want to, I mean, if you get technical, it's a Shion in the first line.
Oh,
If
what
you,
exactly is a Shion
a
tone?
Shion is when, because thus in this strange and sad, no, actually it's not. I take it back. I thought it was. I take it back. Habiliment. For some reason, there's a Shion in that speech. Oh, I know it is.
It's
Who doth molest my contemplation? That's the one.
you're right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
Titus's first line. That's what it is. But it,
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't. I mean, I don't think anyone would
Doth
say who
molest.
doth molest my contemplation. I mean,
Or-
that's, putting yourself in a
that's
prison,
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
who does
OP.
molest my
Yeah.
It
Yep.
sounds good though. Can we
It's
hear
it's
it once
it's
today?
OP. Yeah, it's OP. Has everyone's when I say OP, everyone knows I'm talking about original pronunciation. Folks have
Yeah.
seen that great video with the crystals. Okay, great.
That mention that video for us again, Miranda, because it was I didn't know about it till last time I worked with you, and you told me about it, and it was really interesting.
I'll send the link. It's two English fellows, a father and son, David and Ben Crystal. David is an academic. Ben Crystal is an actor. But they've done a lot of work with. They did a production some years ago at the Globe, Shakespeare's Globe in London, of Romeo and Juliet in using OP, using original pronunciation. There's a 10-minute video. I'll send it to you all, in which they talk about it. And it's very compelling. It's not dry bones. It's fun to
Yeah,
to
it's
listen
really
to.
interesting
Yeah.
to hear
Yeah,
the
I'll send
sounds,
that.
and it makes the rhyming couplets make more sense.
Totally, and connotations, and including lewd and bawdy ones, as they point out, that we miss if it's these sort of received pronunciation, plummy British accents.
Excellent. Well, we look pretty straightforward in this part. Is there any questions in those little two first sections that anybody has? All right, let's go on. Let's read down just to line 28, the end of Titus's next little speech. So we'll go from Tamara.
Titus, I am come to talk with thee.
No, not a word. How can I grace my talk, wanting a hand to give it action? Thou hast the odds of me, therefore no more.
If thou didst know me, thou wouldst talk with me.
I am not mad. I know thee well enough. Witness this wretched stump. Witness these crimson lines. Witness these trenches made by grief and care. Witness the tiring day and heavy night. Witness all sorrow that I know thee well for our proud empress, mighty Tamara. Is not thy coming for my other hand?
Excellent. Okay, I noticed something in Titus's speech there. Am I correct? Is there a difference in the line wanting a hand to give it action? I had difficulty scanning that. No, not a word. How can I grace my
give
talk?
it action.
Is it another Shion?
Could be. Want.
Or is it a feminine ending?
Wanting
And
to give it axion. It's not necessary. No, I don't think it's feminine, but I think what throws us off is that that's not an I am at the beginning. It's a trochee, right? It's hitting the wanting. It's like, wait, what? Wanting, and that sort of throws the rhythm off, and I think sets us up for that his gorgeous next speech with a witness, 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 which is completely something else.
Yeah, and then so that's what I was going to go to next. It seems that there's a change once the word witness comes in. Is there a scansion change in there?
Which line, Nick?
Witness this wretched stump, witness these crimson lines. Witness this wretched stump, witness these crimson lines. I've got 6 beats in there.
Totally, and then again, it also starts with a trochee, witness, with it hitting on the first word. And Charlotte, was it you perhaps last week? Someone was noting that in the folio, witness this wretched stump is its own line, and then witness these crimson lines. So that word witness occurs at the beginning every time. So the line is either way too long or there are 2 lines that are way too short, but it's completely off kilter. And stop me if I've said this in this session, friends, but one thing I've really learned from actors and directors is if a line is incomplete, that doesn't mean the actor can't take the beats, can't take the silence to complete the line, which is just so fascinating. So I think there's different ways to read that line. Witness this wretched stump, witness these crimson lines. But either way, there's something completely different going on in this speech. I think.
Yeah, we had discussed that almost sounding like an incantation or a spell of some type. There's a change in Titus. Could you read that little section for us, Angie, from I Am Not Mad, so we can hear it?
I am not mad. I know thee well enough. Witness this wretched stump. Witness these crimson lines. Witness these trenches made by grief and care. Witness the tiring day and heavy night. Witness all sorrow that I know thee well for our proud empress, mighty Tamara. Is not thy coming for my other hand?
Yeah, that's really, really cool. It's the scene could do anything after that. Very interesting. Does anybody have anything else that they noticed that they wanted to talk about in that little section?
I'm just looking at the Riverside, and I have the folio here, but the Riverside gives that line, I want to say, what is it, 18-ish? So Titus is, no, not a word. How can I grace my talk, wanting a hand to give it action? And you see the brackets there on the folder.
Yes.
On the Riverside, it's wanting a hand to give it that accord.
Oh.
Yeah. Which in the notes tells us that agreement or the proper support. So,
but don't you think? I mean, don't you think action is clearer? I mean, that's
I just wanted to bring it up as something interesting.
Sure.
Somebody else noted. Yeah.
That's in the folio. That's the folio. As Arden points out, that I mean, the river, I love the riverside, but it makes weird choices sometimes. I like action better.
Yeah,
Well,
no, the
I'm with
boat.
Tony. I'm
like
with Tony. No, well, thank you, Charlotte. Thank you. I'm not, yeah, thank you for bringing it up. But yeah, I think I agree. I think action is action, you
Yeah.
know.
Miranda,
Um,
how would the Riverside choose a different word than say the Folger? Would they get it out of a quarto or um
yes, I mean the the Riverside's in some ways the ultimate scholarly edition, but they make choices, and then you have to flip to the back to figure out
Mm.
where the choice is from. But if there were a quarto, we know there was at least one quarto of Titus Andronicus, because there's one as far as we know in the world that's in the Folger. But yes, typically they would, but the Folger editors, I think, had a different. I worked with them; they had a different goal in mind. I think they make weird choices too sometimes, but but everyone's doing the best they can, I guess,
Miranda,
depending
yeah.
on their audience. But
Miranda, do you know if there's a difference between the quarto and what was put in the folio? Do you know if there's a substantial difference or between the
the quarto,
quarto, the existing
when,
quarto, and what they put in the folio?
one moment. Let me,
Okay, I was just thought you might know.
let me grab
Yeah,
let me grab my offhand. I would say no, but let
yeah.
me just see
Okay.
what the Riverside editors say
Something that's
at
coming
the
up for
back.
me as we discuss this is going back to the witness and what Charlotte brought up last time is that where the audience is and what the audience is seeing, I feel like with Titus saying, I am not mad, as Tony said next time, it's also a head nod to the audience. Look, 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 look who's actually crazy.
Hmm.
And that's very powerful, right? You want to ask, like, what does this scene look like? Is it funny? Who is the audience following? How could Tamara, like Titus tells us everything we need to know and whose eyes we're looking through. And then I think the audience encounters themselves based on how they perceive what's happening. Because, and even what you're saying, Nick, about that candle flickering in the dark, what comes up for me without attaching to it, because I think this is just fun to play around with, Titus might be that candle flickering in the dark. And it feels like this scene starts with that flicker. I am not mad. Look, look, look. Open your eyes. Open your eyes. I know you. You don't know me, and you think you do. And so that seems like something that's humming underneath in this speech right here. If we want to know what Shakespeare intended with what he might have wanted the head nod the audience to see through, and like that phrasing, candle flickering in the dark, is kind of like darkness becomes that flicker.
Yeah, I love that. I love one of the hard parts about directing something like this in this particular medium is you don't get the designer meetings. And what a fun play to sit around with a costumer and a lighting designer and talk about all this stuff. Like Tony said last week, it could be a director's show. I mean, there's just so much light and dark you could play with and
And we
fire.
came to hear Shakespeare, to hear a
That's
play.
true. That's true.
So when we talk about the indigenous root of it, we actually want to see so much. When
It
the root of this that we have gone away from, we came to hear a play, and it is in the language, and like what we want to see is what, in a fun way that's supposed to happen, manipulates the story that is very clear. I feel like that's in all ancient texts
Yeah,
though.
and you're already seeing it in your mind by listening to the words, so there's a point to that too. Sorry, Miranda, were you going to say something?
Well, yes, I was just inspired by something something Jamal was saying, but I also have an answer to Tony's question. So there were actually three quartos of Titus
Ah,
Andronicus. The 1594 Q1, there was one in 1600 and one in 1611, which really speaks to how extraordinarily popular it was that there were three. The general agreement among editors seems to be that Q1 is the best. It's the one that's from Shakespeare's Foul Papers, so it was the closest to whatever he actually wrote. And then this is the kind of sentence I love, right? Q2 presents a sobering situation for those concerned with the authenticity of Shakespeare's text. And then they go on. So there was some variation, I think, in the between these three quartos and the folio, Tony, to answer your question. So
Okay.
So the editors, why they went with the folio in this particular line rather than Q1, they don't say.
I don't, I don't know if they're still around, but there used to be a company, I think it was called the Original Shakespeare Company in the UK that only works with the first folio. And they work with like the rolls where you get your part on a roll by itself.
Yeah.
In the old days, you would just get your lines, for the audience who's watching this, and then you would have to listen to the other actor, which is interesting because you couldn't see their lines on a piece of paper, so you'd have to listen for your cue before you could say your lines, which is a neat way to learn.
If you scratch that a little, right, you'd have to have some sense that you were even in a scene. I mean, you can't have, Goneril wandering onto the heath. So she can't, you'd have to at least know that, it's coming up if you were going to do. And I agree. That's, for economic reasons, if nothing else, they did that for, but you would have to know, right?
Which is such a great point, Tony, certainly that I forget. I mean, it's not that they could be off stage in the green room listening to what was being, coming over the mic into the green room. They would have to just be close at hand in the wings listening.
Yeah. And multiple characters. If you're playing multiple characters, if you have to do a costume change. Wait a minute.
Quick change.
Well, I guess they did rehearse a little bit, so they probably, maybe that was something they marked. I don't know. I never thought of it, frankly.
Yeah, that's the purview of theater historians. I just wanted to, if I may, just say one thing that I was thinking about, Jamal, after what you were saying. With the witness and who's really mad here. And of course, so often in Shakespeare's plays, we see the verse breaks down as a character's mental state breaks down. But here we know that Titus is feigning. He's feigning madness. So is he? How strategized is this leap into irregular verse? I also have to say, is it ghoulish of me, but I just find that line is not by coming from my other hand so funny. In the sort of grotesque way we were discussing, aren't you here for my other hand? And I watched a 2017 Royal Shakespeare Company production of this play during our week, and it was so humorless. It was the no humor, and it was dry, and it also wasn't as moving because the humor and the extremes weren't there. So,
The humor helps you identify and deal with the tragedy that's going on because it's almost impossible to fathom, but through some sense of humor. I did it. Like I said, I was involved in a production that was very dry, and it was less successful because of that. I think so. I played Lucius, and I had a great time working on it, but it was dark. God, it was hard to go to work.
I would think so. Yeah.
Okay, let's take a look. Let's move on from is it from Titus, I am come to talk with thee. And let's go all the way down to the end of Tamara's speech, which is line 41.
No, thou sad man, I am not Tamara. She is thy enemy, and I thy friend. I am revenge, sent from the infernal kingdom to ease the gnawing vulture of thy mind by working wreakful vengeance on thy foes. Come down and welcome me to this world's light. Confer with me of murder and of death. There's not a hollow cave or lurking place, no vast obscurity or misty veil, where bloody murder or detested rape can couch for fear, but I will find them out, and in their ears tell them my dreadful name, Revenge, which makes the foul offender quake.
Art thou Revenge? And art thou sent to me to be a torment to my enemies?
I am. Therefore, come down and welcome me.
Do me some service ere I come to thee. Lo, by thy side where rape and murder stands. Now give some assurance that thou art revenge. Stab them, or tear them on thy chariot wheels, and then I'll come and be thy wagoner, and whirl along with thee about the globe. Provide thee 2 proper palfreys, black as jet, to hail thy vengeful wagon swift away, and find out murderers in their guilty caves. And when thy car is loaden with their heads, I will dismount, and by thy wagon wheel trot like a servile footman all day long, even from Hyperion's rising in the east until his very downfall in the sea. And day by day I'll do this heavy task, so thou destroy rapine and murder there.
Excellent. Let's talk about that section for a minute. I noticed only one area, and it looks to me, and tell me if I'm right, where provide the 2 proper palfreys black as jet. That line seems to be 6 beats. Am I right? Oh.
What line again, Nick?
It is line 51. Provide the 2 proper palfreys black as jet.
That line's a mess. That line's a
It's
mess.
really hard to scan that line, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what does that line mean? It says, I'll give you 2 horses, black as jet. And jet is a stone, am I right? A black stone?
Yes, that is correct.
I wonder if this is where the term jet black comes from.
But it says here that Arden tells us black as jet was proverbial at this point. So in there's a couple of great anthologies of phrases that were already proverbial by Shakespeare's time, and they cite one of them. So it was already proverbial.
It's funny because if you scratch the scansion of it, then you're in trouble. But if you simply say the line with the intent, provide the 2 proper palfreys, black as jet, to hail thy vengeful wagon swift away, there's no problem. You know what I mean? Sometimes by really
see, you use black as jet to propel you into the next line right there, and that makes perfect sense to me. You know, you use it as a springboard to get into hail thy vengeance, wagon swift away. And that was clear.
The folio has provide thee 2 proper palfreys as black as jet.
There's an extra one. Interesting.
Yeah, it's even but I was thinking about the propulsion too, because of course we are talking about horses, pulling this wagon forward. So so there's that
and
as
then
well.
And then there's also the playfulness that's happening in this line as well. For me, it's kind of like, oh, he's playing with her, like, oh, we do this, oh, we do that, oh, if you get me these 2 submissive black as jet horses, I will do anything for you, revenge. And so sometimes I feel like when the line starts to fall off, there's also if we talk about the technical aspect, yes, and then we can talk about the springboard, but there's also the emotion of why Shakespeare did that. And we always know Shakespeare is such a poet that he's tapping on the feeling. And what comes up for me looking at Titus, like he's playing with Tamara. And I feel like that's why these lines get wonky in certain places. If you want to choose that, I think it gets fun.
I love that, because I always feel like if there's a change in the verse, there's something going on with the character, or maybe there's a choice to be made there on that line. And I love the idea that, it feels like there's a new momentum that has happened on that line, or building up to it. He's having fun. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, you gave an interpretation to proper that I had not thought of.
Yeah.
The word proper. I mean, you're saying
Yeah.
What was it you
Yeah.
said?
I said submissive because
Yeah.
when you look at the type of horse they're talking about, you look it up, they're talking about these docile horses. And then I also saw something too about like, especially for women. And so
That's
there's
right.
something he's saying that I will submit myself. I will put myself on these docile, submissive. They listen, they want to be tamed and do this thing. And like when I look at that, like when you think about proper in this time, I'll be proper for you, revenge. What do you want? Like that's just me. That's how I get into the language. It just I start to look at these things like what does it feel like? And it just comes up as we break it down and pause and ask why. It's like the technical makes sense, yes, but then I'm like, oh, but what does it feel like?
And you're totally onto something there, Jamal. I think because he's absolutely kind of yanking her chain. Oh, give me some assurance, stab, rape, and murder. There, he knows perfectly well who they are. And he's throwing this challenge. How's she going to get out of this? And he's sort of simultaneously saying, "I'm dangerous, but I'm not. I'm submissive. I'm submissive." He's really messing with her.
There's something looking at it too. I don't know why it would be very interesting. It's almost a kind of very, very dark Queen Mab speech.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But very, very dark. There's something really. Oh, let's play because if you do that, then you know what? I know because you're vengeance, right? You have a wagon. Vengeance comes in a chariot. So what we'll do is, I'll be your servant, etc.
Tony,
There's
we
something.
think. I don't know if you know your camera's off.
Oh,
It
I have
is.
no
We can
idea.
listen to Tony's voice
We
all
miss
day,
you, Tony.
though.
There you are.
I
Just
didn't know
listening
how
to
it's
Tony, though.
sorry,
I'm
guys.
just
We
saying.
I
missed
wasn't
you.
hiding. I wasn't hiding. No, I have no idea.
I
Have
see
you
a
ever
Queen
done
Mab
this and
speech.
balloons come? Have you ever been on Zoom and balloons come,
Yeah.
big thumbs come? I have no idea.
What's interesting though is what I'm seeing almost every other line. Does every other line have an extra sort of syllable in there? What about and find out murderers in their guilty caves? That's a tough one to scan too. And find out murder guilty caves. And then it also, yeah.
And find out murderers in their guilty cage. You can align murderers and not make it 3 syllables. I mean, if as well,
in their guilty
choice.
caves, yeah.
And also like the wagon, the horses. I'm looking at it's like this movement. The trotting is something that's bouncy in it as well in the language that's coming out for me. That's repeating
I
in my
love
mind
that.
as I look at it.
Fascinating.
Ooh, that. Ooh, this. Ooh, we roll along. And so going to your point though, to make this fun, like I think there is fun that's in this that I think us beings that are rightfully afraid of death and war because we live in the same time but look at it different and how we distance ourselves from it. This is their world. And I find that in modern world, when we do Shakespeare, the heavy stuff we forget was their everyday and their normal. And like people still had pleasure in these times. People still woke up the next day and went to fight. People still got drunk. People still had joy. And even thinking about my lineage, it's like, yeah, we still have fun, although. And so to your point, Nick, I think this text really comes alive because you have to find where are they playing with their reality that they live with every day.
I really love that. There's a momentum,
Beautiful.
isn't there?
Beautiful.
Yeah. I have a question, and I'm sorry, was somebody speaking?
I'm just the folio person right now. That line and in the folio is and find out murder capitalized in their guilty cares.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, interesting.
Yeah.
Murder being an allegorical thing like revenge, and that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
And find out murder in their guilty cares.
Cares. Yep.
Yeah.
Fascinating. I really like that. That's really lovely. How about even from Hyperions rising in the east? I'm sorry, Miranda, what exactly is Hyperion when Shakespeare?
The sun god. So and I was actually thinking about those lines too, because all of a sudden here he's in this very poetic, language, these classical allusions, even from Hyperion's rising in the east. So even from the dawn, rising and driving his chariot across the sky until his very downfall in the sea at the end of the day. That would be That would be
Does it
that's the vision.
Hamlet talks about Hyperion. Is it Hyperion to a satyr or
Yes, yes. So when he's looking at the portraits, yes,
like
in the
Hyperion? Oh,
closet
that's right,
scene,
like Hyperion, yeah, of his
right,
uncle and
right.
his father.
And his
Interesting.
father showing them to Gertrude, look on this portrait and on this, yeah, yeah. But the playful too, following up on Jamal's point, just the different types of language that he uses and just uses so easily.
It's almost like the idea of the destruction of her two sons brings him great joy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, excellent. Let's keep going. Let's go ahead and um, go all the way to the end of Tamara's speech on 81, if that's okay.
Yeah. Sorry. Oh, where did we end? Sorry.
Line 60, I believe.
So
Yeah,
these
let's go from there.
These are my ministers, and come with me. We ended with a destroy rapine.
right. Great.
Murder.
These are my ministers, and come with me.
Are they thy ministers? What are they called?
Rape and murder. Therefore call it so, 'cause they take vengeance of such kind of men.
Good Lord, how like the Empress' sons they are, and you the Empress. But we worldly men have miserable, mad, mistaking eyes. Oh, sweet revenge, now do I come to thee. And if one arm's embracement will content thee, I will embrace thee in it by and by.
This closing with him fits his lunacy. Whate'er I forge to feed his brain-sick humors, do you uphold and maintain in your speeches. For now he firmly takes me for revenge. And, being credulous in this mad thought, I'll make him send for Lucius his son. And whilst I at a banquet hold him sure, I'll find some cunning practice out of hand to scatter and disperse the giddy Goths, or, at the least, make them his enemies. See, here he comes, and I must ply my theme.
You want to keep going? Oh.
No, we can stop there. That's, it's interesting. It's almost like there's two people that are taking great joy in this conversation. It's like the happiest scene in the play. Besides the very beginning. The only thing I saw, I felt 6 beats on when Titus is talking about his hand. Oh, and if one arm's embracement will content thee, is that? And if one arm's embracement will content thee.
That's feminine ending. There's an extra syllable. Yeah.
Yeah.
I will embrace thee in it by and by.
I counted 5 on everyone except that, which is interesting. And what's funny is I count feminine endings most of the time, and I don't know if this is correct in this scene but when he talks about his hand, it's almost each line of I think it is.
That's cool. By it, that of course makes me think of the sonnet, a woman's face by nature's own hand painted, every line of which ends in a feminine ending. But this is like, if I think you may be right, Nick. If every line that alludes to his missing hand has an extra syllable, it's like there's something missing and something added in this extra.
Yeah, I mean I get it. I get, and he brings it up an awful lot in this. I think he's clearly upset about it. He's. I don't know. What do you think about that, Tony?
I just got a call. I think sometimes, I'm sorry, that's a strike.
No.
I think sometimes there can be, I was just thinking, I will embrace thee in it by and by, which is 9 syllables, but there's 5 stresses probably in it. I will embrace thee by and by.
Oh.
It's 9 syllables. So sometimes, yes, ideally there are 10 syllables. And the other thing we have to remember, and this is why perhaps, what you're getting at with this is that It's not the regularity of the verse that it should interest us. It's the irregularity of the verse. You know what I mean? The trochaic stuff. Oh, that I need to come in strong on that. And some actors just do it instinctively. Actors do it instinctively because it's tied to the meeting. You would never say witness. You would never say witness, you know, immediately without knowing a lick of scansion. You know, that's just the language. But there are, you know, I guess it's a good point in the sense of, you know, you have Xian endings, you have feminine endings, and you have some short lines that either can indicate action or or you just simply look for he didn't need the extra word. He could have found it. I don't know. I wish I knew. That's the old, with a couple of beers, sit down and say, hey, what's going on?
Yeah, you know, and so if there's a short line, there could be some space to do something or for an exit or interesting.
He does leave. He does leave, but it's certainly, you know.
Yeah, that's interesting.
No, wait a minute. I'm wrong.
Well, you guys are so
gentle with me. I am wrong. I will embrace the in, it, by, and by. It's 10. Right?
Yeah, so so it's an 11, it's 11 beats in that section total.
Yeah.
Or feet. No, I always hit what's an Alexandrine? Is an Alexandrine 12?
That's like, you know, Spenser's Faerie Queen. The you know the every stanza that has a final line that is 12 that has an extra beat.
Okay, so there would be two sort of two lines with an extra beat, with an extra
one line, just one tag. In Spenser, it would be one line at the end, which, you know, after a while kind of drives you bonkers when you're reading it. But you know, so that's that. Or, you know, then there's dactyls and anapus and everything else.
Yeah.
Excellent. So I really enjoyed Charlotte, I really enjoyed your reading of this. Can I hear that little last speech again? This closing fits him, or with him fits his lunacy.
Sure.
One more time. Could you just read that little speech for us?
Yeah.
Thank you.
This closing with him fits his lunacy. Whate'er I forge to feed his brain-sick humors, do you uphold and maintain in your speeches. For now he firmly takes me for revenge. And, being credulous in this mad thought, I'll make him send for Lucius, his son. And whilst I at a banquet hold him sure, I'll find some cunning practice out of hand to scatter and disperse the giddy Goths, or, at the least, make them his enemies. See, here he comes, and I must ply my theme.
Thank you. So there's I count something different happening in the second and third line of that speech. And I don't know if I don't know what the change is there, but after she says this closing with him fits his lunacy, the next line I count 6 beats, and the line after that I also count 6 beats. Tell me if I'm correct. And would that be an Alexandrine if they were both, if there's 12 total?
No, that's regular. Where I forge to feed his brain-sick humors.
That's a feminine ending.
Yeah,
that's
but
not
it's regular.
It's a feminine ending, but it's not an Alexandrine. But I noticed it too, Charlotte. I love what you did with that speech, actually, because it's otherwise it's pretty regular. So why is that there is what I always ask.
You uphold and maintain in your speeches. Yeah, so there's 2 feminine endings right next to each other.
Yes, yeah, but an Alexandrine is different. I'm not sure.
Different, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. I wonder if there's, you know, if there's she's changing her focus. She starts to give it feels like instructions. Yeah.
It's hard to know why that's there. Yeah.
I wonder, there are a couple places where she gives information that the sons would know, and it's hard to know whether they might be asides, little sections might be.
Like this closing with him fits his lunacy feels like an aside, doesn't it?
Well, I haven't made up my mind, but I think there are a number of places, not only here, but in an earlier and in a later speech, that could be little quick asides and then back to the sons. Simply
Yeah.
because the information is stuff that you'd think they already know sometimes.
And she's their mother, right? And so thinking about the reality of having children and being the mother of them, and then them still being boys that just happen to be doing horrible things, they can be forgetful. They can be sitting here. It's like she says, like maintaining your speeches, because we know that maintaining lies when tricking people are the hardest things to do. These boys might drop that. So I wonder, looking at Tamara, is she being a mother? Listen, do you hear what he is saying? Stick this, remember also. And it seems like the normalcy of like mothering still while, tearing down dynasties.
I love
Okay, can
that.
we oh sorry, go ahead. Somebody adding something?
I just was saying I love what Jamal just said.
Can we switch up now for a little bit? Jamal, can you read Titus? Tony, could you read Tamara for us? And Angie and Charlotte, would you read Demetrius, and Charlotte, you read Chiron? Okay. And we'll go on a little bit and I'll stop you. We'll check it out. From Titus's entrance, please.
Long have I been forlorn in all for thee. Welcome, dread fury, to my woeful house. Rapine and murder, you are welcome too. How like the empress and her sons you are. Well are you fitted. Had you but a Moor, could not all hell afford you such a devil? For well I wot the empress never wags, but in her company there is a Moor. And would you represent our queen aright, it were convenient you had such a devil? But welcome as you are, what shall we do?
What wouldst thou have us do, Andronicus?
Show me a murderer, I'll deal with him.
Show me a villain that hath done a rape, and I am sent to be revenged on him.
Show me 1,000 that hath done thee wrong, and I will be revenged on them all.
Look round about the wicked streets of Rome, and when thou find'st a man that's like thyself, good murder, stab him. He's a murderer. Go thou with him. And when it is thy hap to find another that is like to thee, good repine, stab him. He is a ravisher. Go thou with them. And in the emperor's court, there is a queen attended by a Moor. Well, shalt thou know her by thine own proportion, for up and down she doth resemble thee. I pray thee, do on them some violent death. They have been violent to me.
Well hast thou lessoned us. This shall we do. But would it please thee, good Andronicus, to send for Lucius, thy thrash valiant son, who leads toward Rome a band of warlike Goths, and bid him come and banquet at thy house? When he is here, even at thy solemn feast, I will bring in the empress and her sons, the emperor himself, and all thy foes, and at thy mercy shall they stoop and kneel, and then on them shall and on them shall thou ease the angry heart. I will bring in the empress and her sons, the emperor himself, and all thy foes, and at thy mercy shall they stoop and kneel, and on them shalt thou ease thy angry heart. What says Andronicus to this device?
Marcus, my brother, 'tis sad Titus calls. Go, gentle Marcus, to thy nephew Lucius. Thou shalt inquire him out among the Goths. Bid him repair to me and bring with him some of the chiefest princes of the Goths. Bid him encamp his soldiers where they are. Tell him the emperor and the empress too feast at my house, and he shall feast with them. This do thou for my love, and so let him, as he regards his aged father's life.
This will I do, and soon return again.
Now will I hence about thy business, and take thy ministers along with me.
Nay, nay, let rape and murder stay with me, or else I'll call my brother back again and cleave to no revenge but Lucius.
What say you, boys? Will you abide with him while I go to tell my lord and emperor how I have governed and determined how I have governed our determined jest? Yield to his humor, smooth, speak him fair, and tarry with him till I turn again.
I knew them well, though they supposed me mad, and will all reach them in their own devices. A pair of cursed hell bounds on their dam.
Madam, departed pleasure, leave us here.
Farewell, Andronicus. Revenge now goes to lay a complot to betray thy foes.
I know thou dost, and sweet revenge. Farewell.
Excellent. Let's look at that section. I didn't see anything out of the ordinary.
And this is what I always ask for, because I know I flow from the heart, and there might be words that I'm missing or things I need to be lifted. And so if there's anything that sounds interesting to the ear, hit me with that, because like the technical stuff I do last. And so I don't know, because I do recognize like and this is good for the audience that we're with, that flows from student to, you know, heady Shakespeare people, and then people who love the poetry and people who feel on the outside of it, and like blending the lines of technique, emotionally riding the language and letting it ride you, and then using your team to keep you honest through questioning and saying, I'm not hearing this word and I think we need to. And so I want to throw that into the room, knowing my process and how I process.
I heard you, as Tony said earlier, naturally adapting to the language. You know, I mean, it's really very clear, and I really enjoy your pacing, Jamal. It seems the right pace for this scene. You know, some scenes, you know, are faster and slower, but I just enjoy the time that you're taking with this imagery, especially in this part. I find the whole Marcus section really interesting. And I'm wondering, you know, what Shakespeare's intentions were to use Marcus in that section, or what Titus's intentions are to use Marcus in that section. It's interesting because he just has a small job to do. By the way, Charlotte, brilliant Marcus. You were on it. Thank you.
Well, he knows, right? He's
Excuse
in
me?
on the thing because the scene with Lavinia has happened already. So he knows what's going on.
And
Right.
so that's it. Well, let's take a look.
I'm not sure he knows that Tamara and Chiron and Demetrius have showed up pretending to be revenge and rapine and murder. So he catches on. I love this scene, and Nick, I agree with you. I loved what Charlotte did, because I think Marcus catches on very quickly, because Titus is basically asking him, telegraphing to him, you know, just go with me here. So he has to
Miranda
improvise.
doesn't. I mean, there's the scene with the whole thing you were talking about with the Ovid book, and that happens
Right,
before this.
He knows what's happened to Lavinia, but I don't think he has seen Tamara show up here pretending to be revenge, and with her sons pretending to be rape and murder. And of course, he takes one look at them and knows perfectly well who
That's
they
what
are.
I mean. Yes, exactly. That's exactly what I mean.
But he's in the Julie Taymor, Marcus and a couple of other guys are back there, you know, Publius, like playing cards or something.
Right.
And Titus calls Marcus out, and the actor does a fabulous job, because he's sort of like, what's going on? Okay, I'll go with it here. Yeah. And okay, absolutely, Titus, I'll do as you command.
I mean,
So
it's all sweet.
all eyes are on Marcus during that little speech that Titus is
Uh-huh.
giving him. All eyes are looking at that face as he's looking at, what is going
Hmm.
on. And Tamara's dressed up in this crazy outfit, and so are the boys. And yeah, there's a lot of room for an actor for Marcus to play in that little section right there for sure.
Hmm.
I
And
I think
Titus as
so,
well.
and Titus as well, and it's funny. Again, it's funny.
It
I
is
mean,
absolutely funny.
funny, and I would also say so recognizably human. I mean, I probably everyone on this call has been in a situation, I'll fess up, where I'm sort of telegraphing to my husband, we have this obligation. We have to leave this party now. Remember? Oh yes,
Yep.
my gosh, thank you. I'd forgotten. So sorry. Whatever it is, but it's a very human moment, I think, when Titus knows he can rely on Marcus to step up
Mhm.
to the plate here and go with him. And it's funny, or potentially it can be. As you say, all eyes are on Marcus.
I think Marcus has some of the prettiest lines in this play.
Yeah.
That he has a speech when he finds Lavinia after she has been through the most treacherous torture you could ever imagine. That is beautiful, so beautiful. He's such an interesting, sensitive character.
Yeah.
Um,
You,
Sorry, go
we
ahead.
talked last week about how why does Tamara leave, and moving text, and going with the boys. It just playing at that time. It was her confidence. She thought, oh, this guy's gone. We can
Yeah.
rap, So actually, it was like, what do you say, boys? We can. Are you in for a good time? Just humor him, humor him. The language. Looking at it now, I think it could go either way, and uh, it's like this guy's he's far gone. We could, yeah,
I
and it's her pride in her, which is sort of weird, in her control of the situation that allows a voice to be killed
Yeah, it's
in
a
a kind of way.
ego. It's almost like her
Yes.
confidence is her downfall.
Yeah. Yeah. Almost laughing through it, like
Yeah.
I get the
it's
sense that Tamara is really enjoying playing the part of revenge. It seems it seems that in her lines, and also like she doesn't have a lot of, and I don't know, like we could discuss this. Do you guys feel that if there's a feminine ending, there is some type of change in a character? That Tony, you don't think so at all?
no,
You
no.
think
It's
it's
just
just
it's a way of getting five. It's a way of finding another word that has one extra syllable, and that's all. It's never on a stress. That 11th syllable is never stressed, so you don't even hear it. The audience wouldn't hear it. No, no, no,
no, you don't think
no,
so?
no, no,
Okay.
no. I don't think
Yeah.
so. I don't. Maybe Miranda or Charlotte or Angie or Jamal.
I,
But
I always think that these things are so like all of it is true. And I think that it's the mirror of like the imperfections of humanity that Shakespeare also puts in the language. And so I agree with you, Tony. I don't think it means everything and nothing. It's what you cast upon it based on, connecting the dots because we're imperfect beings. And like Shakespeare, there's clarity sometimes, and then there's a lack of clarity. And then you find clarity where it's just different clarity. And so that might be a feminine ending because it's a realization. So I like looking at the mirror of the soul and the mirror of the language. And I think that's simply what it is. Just, what's being realized now?
Yeah,
See, as an actor, if I'm playing a character and there's some type of change in the verse, I look for a choice. I look for something, I don't know, maybe I am shifting focus, maybe I'm talking to somebody different within the speech. I don't know. This
yeah,
is
but
just something.
you're absolutely right. But it's a convention in this case. It's not really a figure. It's not like a trochee or a spondy or. I mean, it's a convention. It's a way of just getting, because it's poetry, iambic, non-rhyming, but iambic, and so consequently, there's a convention of having an extra syllable unstressed.
That's cool.
The way
Yeah.
the way I look at it as an actor is I have in my head a sort of a pyramid of things, and you could think of it as a toolbox. So I have tons of tools in that toolbox.
Mm.
Um, and for me, the scansion is one of those tools, but it's one I rarely pick up.
Yeah.
I'll pick it up if it suits me, but it's that weird tool in the back that I might chip away at something at, but I don't use it all the time. I go to the other tool. I go to the hammer and the screwdriver first before I get the weird.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's just the way I look at it as an actor.
That's beautiful, Charlotte. I love that so much. And I tell my students all the time, I teach acting and I'm guiding directing for the first time. And sometimes when you don't, if you're not finding the flow or feeling it, that's when the technique comes in to help you, to your point, Nick. And then sometimes the technique will freeze you and take away the life and the breath of it. And so they kind of dance together. And I tell my students all the time that like all these things is chatter for you to find your language around your artistic discovery time and time again, but not to attach to like my way of finding it, but a give and take of listening and finding your artistic flow with the language, because it all comes to you through the tools, if you allow it to. And so that's why I think, I deal with my gift, which is the heart. I feel more than I'll ever know. My mind starts to do this when we start to talk about the technical thing. It never has stopped, and I've gotten to where I've gotten, knowing that that's my artistic flow with this. And then I need to ground. And when I don't know, I can pick up the technical tool and say, oh, I am running over that word. And sometimes that doesn't come into the last week of rehearsal. Sometimes it's halfway through the run. And I'm like, what did the voice and speech person tell me? And it's like they did, but my being wasn't ready to receive it yet, And so that's the beauty of theater. Sometimes it's out of your control.
Absolutely. Excellent. Okay, let's read on to the end and we'll discuss the next section. Thank you, guys.
Where did we end?
It's right below 145. So I'm guessing that's like 140.
I think from
Demetrius, Madam, depart at pleasure, leave us there, or are we a little bit more down?
Oh, sure.
Madam departed, we want to start there?
Sure.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. Madam departed pleasure, leave us here.
Farewell, Andronicus. Revenge now goes to lay a complot to betray thy foes.
I know thou dost, and sweet revenge. Farewell.
Tell us, old man, how shall we be employed?
Tut, I have work enough for you to do. Publius, come hither. Cassius and Valentine.
What is your will?
Know you these two?
The Emperor's sons, I take them. Chiron and Demetrius.
Fie, Publius, fie. Thou art too much deceived. The one is murder, and rape is the other's name, and therefore bind them, gentle Publius. Cassius and Valentine, lay hands on them. Oft have you heard me wish for such an hour, and now I find it. Therefore bind them sure, and stop their mouths if they begin to cry.
Villains, forbear. We are the Empress' sons.
And therefore do we what we are commanded. Stop their mouths, let them not speak a word. Is he sure bound? Look that you bind them fast.
Come, Lavinia. Look, thy foes are bound. Sir, stop their mouths. Let them not speak to me, but let them hear what fearful words I utter. O villains, Chiron and Demetrius. Here stands the spring whom you have stained with mud. It's goodly summer with your winter mixed. You killed her husband, and for that vile fault, 2 of her brothers were condemned to death, my hand cut off, and made a merry jest. Both her sweet hands, her tongue, and that more dear than hands or tongue, her spotless chastity. Inhuman traitors, you constrained and forced. What would you say if I should let you speak? Villains, for shame you could not beg for grace. Hark, wretches, how I mean to martyr you. There's one hand yet is left to cut your throats, whilst that Lavinia's tween her stumps doth hold, the basin that receives your guilty blood. You know your mother means to feast with me, and calls herself revenge, and thinks me mad. Hark, villains, I will grind your bones to dust, and with your blood, and it I'll make a paste, and of that paste a coffin I will rear, and make 2 pasties of your shameful heads, and bid that strumpet your unhallowed dam, like to the earth swallow her once increase. This is the feast that I have bid her to, and this is the banquet she shall surfeit on. For worse than Philomel you use my daughter, and worse than Procne I will be revenged. And now prepare your throats. Lavinia, come. Receive the blood. And when that they are dead, let me go grind their bones to powder small, and with this hateful liquor temper it, and in that paste let their vile heads be baked. Come, come. Be everyone officious to make this banquet, which I wish may prove more stern and bloody than the centaur's face. So, now bring them in, for I'll play the cook and see them ready against their mother's combs. There's a lot in there that's like muddy for me that I want to move slower through, but it's very juicy. There's so much deliciousness that I want to continue to play with. It's interesting, the emotional journey with that last speech of like speaking directly to them, holding space for Lavinia. And then there's also this taking of space from her because it's this man making choices for her as well in the space. And I don't think that's things that he's aware of, but I do think that is something that is like a storm brewing that is flowing through him, kind of like in a psychedelic darkness in a sense. But I also felt myself like looking at it and saying the words and saying, "Ooh, there's a lot that I'm not ready to even like." There's more there. Like, oh, whoa, whoa, and so I found myself in the midst of it, like distancing myself to see more than I just need the room now. Is what I mean to say.
Yeah, there's, the verse is pretty straightforward here, and in a way, it feels we're back to that movement that Titus had before in the scenes where it's rolling on through, until there's a break in the line when he cuts their throats. But it still scans, normal. So he's talking as he's cutting their throats, which is just a gnarly image. Yeah, I thought it was really interesting what you said last week, Tony, about because I think of Lavinia in this scene often. And it's interesting that she may have not been very nice in the beginning of the play to Tamara. And I wonder what her level of shock is during this scene. I wonder what, if this is, if she's relieved that this is happening, or he seems to propel
You
her a
know,
lot. Say, come,
yeah,
Lavinia.
it's interesting. The sentimental thing is, of course, she's this helpless figure, and she's maimed and she's helpless. That is, but as someone said last week, I don't know, it was Miranda Charlotte, I'm not certain. They said it would be really interesting in her helplessness that she, in this scene, I guess if I were directing it or something, in her helplessness that she needs this. But it's the task is difficult. It's difficult to hold the thing, but she wants to do it. She wants to do it, and that her change comes later in the eating. that the change, the revulsion, if there is even revulsion, there's a legitimate that she's her father's daughter by this point. That's a whole different way to go. But I would. There has to be some sort of pathos in this just to see her doing it.
Sure.
But what's in the actress's eyes is what interests me, because we've seen the pathos. We've seen her drawing with her hands, and we've seen that. And that's the question I guess I'd have, that I'd be curious to see what the actress did with that.
Yeah, and much like Marcus, a lot of the audience is going to be paying attention to Lavinia during this scene. Even though Titus has the heavy lifting with the dialogue,
yes,
sometimes the quiet character draws a lot of attention.
It'd be a little like trying to play with children and dogs.
Right, yeah.
You might want her to be facing upstage for part of this if you want to hear him.
It's true.
I would be totally fascinated with her.
Yeah.
It's funny. You're absolutely right, Ed. But there's something wonderful, because I get the impression she's not coming forward. She's laying back, and he has to guide her out. So she's in front of him, that she's in front of him. It's the two of them. So they're a twosome in this. He's speaking the line, what she can't say. And she's right there. Look, here she is. This is what you've done. He's right over her shoulder like this. It's not like she's here and he's here. No, that would be death.
In proximity, right?
Yeah, they have to be in proximity, which is good, because you can control the actors. You can put the old hand over the face.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful.
Fascinating. That was beautifully read, Jamal.
Thank you. It's interesting to imagine what's happening with her. It's so interesting to me, and even thinking about where we start with her being so mean, and then it's something that happens when you have everything stripped away from you by force, right? And so like there's still something that in this scene that, like, just as an intellect looking at it, is like, whoa. Although does that mean because someone was this that they deserve this? And then like also her journey throughout of like Titus trying to get answers and asking her to speak when she cannot. It's like there's something about this force in this world. And then also that question that we start with, well, like, can we let this stop here? And the representation of the body and the mutilization of such as representation of what it makes of us. And then to continue that. And so, just listening to the conversation and thinking, I like not knowing. I think I like not knowing. I think you need the actor to make the choice, but in my imagining, not having that actor here, it's like I'm guiding her to it, but there's also heartbreak. There's also justice. There's so much all at once. And I think that's, again, you can't act that. I don't think you can act that. I think you have to create a portal for that to pour through all of these characters at this moment, because you can't manufacture it. It's just impossible.
There's something that's been occurring to me, there's something very Sicilian about this, because in Sicily they say la vendetta è un piatto che va servito freddo. Revenge is a dish best served cold. And there's something about that with Titus in this. That it's cold. It's not this. It's parts of it, are sort of histrionic and up there in its passion. But on some level, it would be really interesting to investigate the coldness of it. Still moving with the language, but just the coldness, the absolute. And the only warmth he shows, of course, is to Lavinia. That great care for her as he's doing this awful thing. There's blood getting on her hair. Let me pull your hair back, darling. You know what I mean? There's something really, really sort of wonderful about that.
Yeah, oh, sorry, go ahead, please.
I was just gonna say that's I'm loving this, by the way, friends. But Tony, that's so interesting, and including the Titus waits for his revenge, but the moment when there's really a turning point for him, it seems to me, is in Act 3, when his hand is sent back along with the heads of his sons, and he sits there on the stage and he laughs. And the way actors, some actors, I gather, sit there laughing for a full 2 minutes, and which I have I have no idea how anyone does that. I have no idea how any of you do what you do, but at that point he really has lost everything. He's seen everything lost, and then he can, once he makes that transition to laughing, he's able to take his time. And this is so deliberate. It's an opportunity that comes to him. He does not know that Tamara is going to come to him in the guise of revenge with her sons, but he's there. He recognizes instantly for what it is.
It's funny, and I was thinking just before you were saying that, when is the turning point for Titus? Because he worships Rome. In the beginning of the play, it's all about Rome. I think his very first line is "Hail Rome, victorious in thy morning weeds." And that is the point when he changes, when his heart has been broken by Rome in a way. And it's interesting. And now his focus has changed.
Well,
to this
you have
moment.
the senators denying him, and it's humiliating because he does it publicly. It's almost like he does it seriously. What they ask Coriolanus to do, which is to wear the robe of humility and suck up to the two plebeians. Actually, Timon does it honestly with the senators, and that's the beginning of the slide, as you said. So, and that's the slight, And you probably, I'm sorry. No, I was going to say you should tie in the emperor into their denial in some way. So because the emperor is part of this deal too at this point. I think he wants
the emperor whom he has crowned effectively.
Saturnine. Exactly.
Yeah. It's interesting that it begins in this scene with Publius. It's the moment that the game is up. Sort of with that character and Publius is sort of an efficient of Rome, right? Like he's what is his actual sort of station? Like he basically is a go-between. He's a messenger of the state.
Publius is is Marcus Andronicus's son, actually. So he's that's why he's there with Marcus and everybody who still remains. So he's Titus's nephew, according to the Arden.
So Titus brings him in and gets a second opinion, says, "Who do these guys look like to you?" And then finally, it's funny, he continues the game, but then he says, "And therefore bind them, gentle Publius. Lay hands on them." It's beautiful that he says, "Oft have you heard me wish for such an hour, and now I find it." There's a sadness to that line that I heard in your reading, Jamal, that was beautiful. It's almost like he knows that it's over now. He's got them. He's got his plan. Yeah.
Yeah. Something that came up to me too, and it's just in my mind and thinking about imagery zooming all the way out from the personal experience of Titus or Tamara, whoever we end up reading, is that what this looks like on a stage when we talk about war and what war wages on the body of women and how war uses women as a model of power over the men who are running these civilizations. And that's so loud in this scene. We ask why, and like the tenderness of guiding her, like her tongue, everything is taken. And so there's this image too, zooming all the way out for the image that the director, that the writer must have been thinking about, as far as to sit back and witness what we do to the body of women to get back during war, and what we do to children to get back during war. And I don't know if that's been clearly said as we talk about the personal, but I'd like to throw that into like what Shakespeare has always been asking us to look at in our world. And then we talk about Rome in the beginning and Rome in the end, and the light and the dark. That's Buddha too. Sometimes you gotta come out the castle to see how dark it is out there too. And this is Titus's realization. I think as humans, we make it look like something, but this dark is him realizing the mask and the facade and the conditioning that has kept him from the truth of the murderers and rapists and killers that has always been his homies, his brothers, his neighbors, these kids. And it's like this is his divine realization. So although this is dark, it must happen because this is what they created.
Can I just notice that his main revenge is against Tamara. These two sons are getting an easy death compared to hers. So it almost, there's almost there's almost a thing where what's been done to Lavinia is not as important as what's been done to his position in the world.
Yeah, you've noticed that a couple times, and that's really interesting. It's interesting, you know, how these people think about their children.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. He's got amazing things about what's happened to Lavinia and what is, you know, and I mean, there's not a father who's not possessive of his daughter on some level. I mean, you know what I mean? Possessive, and there's no mother who's not possessive of his son. He's got amazing. I agree with you, Angie, that it's directed at Tamara, but at the same time, I don't agree that he's thinking that it's a wound against his honor and he doesn't care about her. Oh,
I think that's the
I
space in
disagree with that.
between.
I'm just
Yes,
talking
there's
about
room for
the
both.
hierarchy of it,
Yeah,
Tony.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
not that he doesn't care about both, but what is the biggest horror? The biggest horror is against her, not against these sons.
No. You're absolutely. You know, as Jamal says, there's room for both. It is interesting. I was thinking earlier is when, you know, the Emperor, Tamara, and the two boys. But when does he come up with that he's going to kill the daughter as well? When does that strike him? Does it strike him right there, or is some of the sorrow you were talking about in the scene as he's dealing with her? He knows. Again, that's very old world, Sicilian, Middle East, tribal. You know, that's very.
And to the point, though,
Yeah.
I think it's all in there, but I don't think it's what Titus as the being can always be conscious of. But I do
Right,
think it's
exactly.
true.
Yeah.
Like it's not his, like he cares about his daughter, but again, his driver is still this Rome and this empire that has dictated his choices. And that's the question that he's questioned with in the beginning. It's like, how can you make this choice? Where is this choice coming from? Who are you
Right.
with? You know, and so to your point, he loves his daughter, but from which point of truth that he loves his daughter? Is it from society's perspective of what a father is supposed to love his daughter? Because, like, let me tell you something that was happening when he was in war. Let me tell you what those soldiers was doing to women and daughters over there. And it's like one of the great gurus always asked this, like, do you just care about your children? And that's the question that starts to play. Or do you care about the child next to yours? And when that's the question that I think happens as this society falls down and the towers fall, is that we don't love their children like we love our children. So we're always going to be at war until we realize that thing. I love my child. I love my child. But then when it happens to your child, did it matter when it happened to that child? And Tamara asked in the beginning, my child. And this society said, nah.
Yeah, that's true. Although we get an impression of what her children were like too, don't we?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
you know, listen, this is a very interesting. It's a very interesting thing. The oppressed and the oppressors. Who's better? You know, I mean, we get into name me a great civilization that has not oppressed someone. Name me one.
Boom. There you go.
You know, and that's our DNA.
It
The
is. And that
necessity to lord
consciousness
it
you're
over.
speaking of is where the
Yeah.
change comes, which is why
Yes.
this play asks
Yeah.
the question, because
Yeah.
it's possible. If we can
Yeah.
sit here and process the DNA and say cleanly what's happening, that means it's a simple truth that in the question that starts these plays, we just rather for centuries forget and bypass and mask and act like we don't get it. But if we can describe it like we just did, that means it's a simple truth that humanity can get because it's in the room. because it's the first question that starts this play that we
Yeah.
come back to in this dark time.
You know, just one other quick thing about, you know, the Rome, you know, we tend to think Rome, Italy, you know, Rome, Italy. No, Italy didn't exist. This Rome is corporate. It's so wonderful in Antony and Cleopatra that the realm of the senses is, of course, Egypt, and the corporate, organized, warlike, conquering, imperialistic is the Rome that we think of to get a good carbonara. I think it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing, you know. It's interesting. Yeah,
I was trying to think of as an like directorial, like staging this scene, and I was like, how much attention would Titus be paying actually to Chiron and Demetrius? But I looked at the language, and it's not, we'll grind their bones to dust. It's yours and you, and he is talking directly to them. He definitely wants them to hear exactly. And I was like, how much movement would I have during this scene? If it'd be so much fun to be on our feet for sure. It's fascinating. He definitely wants them to know what's going to happen to them.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we were talking about this last week. He's torturing them with words, with these descriptions, very, very much.
Yeah, and it's cathartic for him. You know, he's been wanting to say this to them. Oh, excellent. Well, let's start over with a new cast. Let's go. Charlotte, do you want to read? What do you think? Do you want to try Titus, or do you want to read Tamara? Which would you rather do?
I have no idea.
I think it's your turn.
I'll go with Titus.
Yeah. All right. Let's read the first part until let's see. Let's go down and we'll switch again and we'll do halvesies. Let's see. Where's a good spot to stop? Let's go from till Titus's exit. And can we have Charlotte, would you read Titus, and Angie, would you read Tamara again, like we started earlier? And then gentlemen, hold on tight and we'll switch to you gentlemen in the middle of the scene.
Sure.
Thank you guys very much. Let's hear what we've learned since we've discussed.
Thus, in this strange and sad habiliment, I will encounter with Andronicus, and say I am revenge, sent from below to join with him and right his heinous wrongs. Knock at his study, where they say he keeps to ruminate strange plots of dire revenge. Tell him revenge is come to join with him and work confusion on his enemies.
Who doth molest my contemplation? Is it your trick to make me ope the door, that so my sad decrees may fly away and all my study be to no effect? You are deceived. For what I mean to do, see here in bloody lines I have set down, and what is written shall be executed.
Titus, I am come to talk with thee.
Oh, not a word. How can I grace my talk, wanting a hand to give it action? Thou hast the odds of me, therefore no more.
If thou didst know me, thou wouldst talk with me.
I am not mad. I know thee well enough. Witness this wretched stump. Witness these crimson lines. Witness these trenches made by grief and care. Witness the tiring day and heavy night. Witness all sorrow, that I know thee well for our proud empress, mighty Tamara. Is not thy coming from my other hand?
No, thou sad man, I am not Tamara. She is thy enemy, I thy friend. I am Revenge, sent from the infernal kingdom to ease the gnawing vulture of thy mind by working wreakful vengeance on thy foes. Come down and welcome me to this world's light. Confer with me of murder and of death. There's not a hollow cave or lurking place, no vast obscurity or misty veil where bloody murder or detested rape can couch for fear, but I will find them out. And in their ears tell them my dreadful name, Revenge, which makes the foul offender quake.
Art thou revenge? And art thou sent to me to be a torment to mine enemies?
I am. Therefore, come down and welcome me.
Do me some service, ere I come to thee. Lo, by thy side where rape and murder stands, now give some assurance that thou art revenge. Stab them, or tear them on thy chariot wheels, and then I'll come and be thy wagoner, and whirl along with thee about the globe. Provide thee 2 proper palfreys, black as jet, to hail thy vengeful wagon swift away, and find out murderers in their guilty caves. And when thy car is loaden with their heads, I will dismount, and by thy wagon wheel trot like a servile footman all day long. Even from Hyperion's rising in the east until his very downfall in the sea. And day by day I'll do this heavy task, so thou destroy rapine and murder there.
These are my ministers, and come with me.
Are they thy ministers? What are they called?
Rape and murder. Therefore called so, 'cause they take vengeance on such like of men.
Good Lord, how like the Empress' sons they are. And you, the Empress. But we, worldly men, have miserable, mad, mistaking eyes. Oh, sweet revenge. Now do I come to thee. And if one arm's embracement will content thee, I will embrace thee in it by and by.
Excellent. Let's stop there. I had to turn my microphone off because I was laughing. There's a lot of humor going on there. I really, Angie, I was cracking up that she comes up with "these are my ministers and come with me" at first. I think that's so funny. She's really quick. What one note, Charlotte, on that. I heard. I think that the operative word in "art thou revenge" is "thou." It, but I just I heard that in my ear. That was the only thing that I caught. Um, I really saw the humor that time, and I really enjoyed it. I think it's such a clever scene that the audience is enjoying this game that they're playing. You do question how much Titus knows, you know, and his sanity, but he's so funny. Sorry, go ahead, Miranda.
I was just saying the same thing. I had to keep my mic off because I was just cracking up. Good Lord, how like the Empress sons they are. Charlotte, you were really breaking me up, and Angie as well, just sort of trying to keep up. And yes, you come up with a quick response. Oh, they're my ministers, and what are their names? Rape and murder. Like when you just say it yourself. It's gorgeous stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like he's Shakespeare's shining light through darkness with a little bit of humor in this show. You know, it's really he was a good writer.
And
He
and
was
when we think
good.
how young he was still relatively and how early in the canon he wrote this, to have such assured control of tone that he could just go back and forth between the darkness and the humor. It just turns on a nice edge. Remarkable, really.
And as great writers are, they're great observers of human nature. And so what we're observing here is not a lot different of shit that's funny on TV today. And so like great writing and great observation of just what is.
It always reminds me of Shakespeare in Love when the little boy is John Webster and he likes all the gory stuff. He really loves Titus when everyone.
He's feeding live mice to the cat.
So
That was a
funny.
very funny thing. Yeah.
I was also thinking about I need to rewatch The Cook, the Thief, the Wife, and the Lover.
Oh, yeah.
I wonder, I need to take a look at that. That's another movie about people cooking people. That was beautifully read, Charlotte. I really enjoy your Titus. You know, there was a really wonderful all-female production of Titus that came up recently that was very celebrated that I really would have liked to have seen. Um,
A few years ago, I had the pleasure of playing a Coriolanus in an all-female Coriolanus. So
that would
it
be
was
great.
one of the hardest things I've ever done, but it was really special. It was a
That's a
really, yeah.
that's a tough warlike play for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen it.
Almost destroyed me.
Yeah,
Didn't
yet just think about what Jamal was saying, and about the cost of war on women. And thank you for saying that, because rape has always been you know, a weapon of war. We see it today, around the world. But so there's something marvelous, though challenging, about an all-female Coriolanus. I'm sure that came out. I realize we're talking about Titus and not Coriolanus, but that just sounds so fascinating, Charlotte. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, well, like Tony said, there is a balance between these characters. There are certain similarities between Coriolanus and Titus, especially in the beginning of the play, with their sheer devotion to the state. You know, um,
It's sort of interesting. I don't think Coriolanus has any trust at all in common people. It's a very conservative play. Lest you think Shakespeare was always a humanist and everything. It's a very, very conservative play. I think Titus does.
mhm.
Titus does feel like he will be rewarded for his service. Coriolanus doesn't seek it there. He seeks it for his own honor and for the glory of Rome as a concept. He doesn't ever think that they will reward him. Because his first line was it? What's the matter, you dissentious rogues? That rubbing the poor itch of your opinion make yourselves scabs. What would you have, you curs? Those are his first lines. He walks in saying that, you know. Yeah, not exactly humble or you know. But
Coriolanus was later on in Shakespeare's canon.
yes,
Is that correct?
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
Yes,
yeah.
that's correct. Hmm.
interesting. It's really fascinating to know where these plays take place within his life, and which ones were the earlier shows and which ones were. Do you know which one was sort of his first large play, Miranda? I mean, was it this one or uh,
You mean
his
large in terms of success
well, like
or
yeah,
box office?
his first full
Mm.
length production that he wrote?
I mean, this is where the editors and the textual scholars get down in the trenches. But arguably the Henry VI plays, but
Mm.
a lot of scholars believe those were collaborations. But quite if they were, or some, then certainly this one I think was
Yeah, one of
makes
his
a
very
case.
first. That's what I was wondering. This is one of his very
Yeah,
first plays.
it's definitely one of the first. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and
Very cool.
comedy of errors. He's just playing it so safe, familiar plot. We know this one will pack them in, but there's something else going on here. Mm.
Excellent. Well, that was a beautiful reading, you guys. Can we switch up a little bit and have Jamal, will you read Tamara? And Tony, will you read
Absolutely.
Titus for us for the next section? And a Angie, would you read Demetrius and Publius? And Charlotte, would you read Chiron and Marcus? Thank you.
This closing with him fits his lunacy. Whate'er I force to feed his brain-sick humors, do you uphold and maintain in your speeches. And now he firmly takes me for revenge. And being credulous in his mad thought, I'll make him send for Lucius, his son. And whilst I at a banquet uphold him sure, I'll find some cunning practice out of hand to scatter and disperse the giddy Goths or at the least make them his enemies. See, here he comes, and I must ply my theme.
Long have I been forlorn, and all for thee. Welcome, dread fury, to my woeful house. Rapine and murder, you are welcome too. Oh, how like the Empress and her sons you are. Well are you fitted, had you but a Moor, could not all hell afford you such a devil? For well I warrant the Empress never wags, but in her company there is a Moor. And would you represent our queen aright, it were convenient you had such a devil. But welcome as you are. What shall we do?
What wouldst thou have us do, Andronicus?
Show me a murderer, I'll deal with him.
Show me a villain that had done a rape, and I am sent to be revenged on him.
Look,
show me 1,000 that hath done thee wrong, and I will be revenged on them all.
Look around the wicked streets of Rome, and when thou find'st a man that's like thyself, good murder, stab him, he's a murderer. Go thou with him, and when it is thy hap to find another that is like to thee, good rapine, stab him, he is a ravisher. Go thou with them, and in the Empress's court there is a queen attended by a Moor. Well shalt thou know her by thy own proportions, for up and down she doth resemble thee. I pray thee, do them some violent death that have been violent to me and mine.
Well hast thou lessoned us. This shall we do. But would it please thee, good Andronicus, to send for Lucius, thy thrice valiant son, who leads towards Rome a band of warlike Goths, and bid him come and banquet at thy house? When he is here, even at thy solemn feast, I will bring in the Empress and her sons, and the Emperor himself, and all thy foes, and at thy mercy shall they stoop and kneel, and on them shalt thou ease thy angry heart. What says Andronicus to this device?
Marcus, my brother! 'Tis that Titus calls. Go, gentle Marcus, to thy nephew Lucius. Thou shalt inquire him among the Goths, bid him repair to me, and bring with him some of the chiefest princes of the Goths. Bid him encamp his soldiers where they are. Tell him the Emperor and the Empress too feast at my house, and he shall feast with them. This do thou for my love. So let him as he regards his aged father's life.
This will I do, and soon return again.
Now will I hence about thy business, and take my ministers along with me.
Nay, let rape and murder stay with me, or else I'll call my brother back again, and cleave to no vengeance but Lucius.
What say you, boys? Will you abide with him whilst I go tell my lord the emperor how I have governed our determined jest? Yield to his humor, smooth and speak him fair, and tarry with him till I turn again.
I know them all, though they suppose me mad, and we'll all reach them in their own devices. A pair of cursed hellhounds and the damned.
Madam, depart at pleasure. Leave us here.
Farewell, Andronicus. Revenge now goes to lay a complot to betray thy foes.
I know thou dost, and sweet revenge, farewell.
Tell us, old man, how shall we be employed?
Tut, I have work enough for you to do. Publius, come hither. Caius and Valentine.
What is your will?
Know you these two?
The Emperor's sons, I take them, Chiron and Demetrius.
Fie, Publius, fie, thou art much deceived. The one is murder, and rape is the other's name, and therefore bind them, gentle Publius. Caius and Valentine, lay hands on them. Oft have you heard me wish for such an hour, and now I find it. Therefore bind them sure, and stop their mouths if they begin to cry.
Villains, forbear, we are the Empress' sons.
And therefore do we what we are commanded. Stop close their mouths, let them not speak a word. Is he sure bound? Look, you bind him fast.
Come, come. Lavinia, look. Thy foes are bound. Sir, stop their mouths. Let them not speak to me, but let them hear what fearful words I utter. O villains, Chiron and Demetrius, here stands the spring, whom you have stained with mud, this goodly summer with your winter mixed. You killed her husband, and for that vile fault 2 of her brothers were condemned to death. My hand cut off and made a merry jest. Both her sweet hands, her tongue, and that more dear than tongue or hands, her spotless chastity, inhuman traitors, you constrained and forced. What would you say if I should let you speak? Villains, for shame you could not beg for grace. Hark, wretches, how I mean to martyr you. The one hand yet is left to cut your throats, whilst that Lavinia, between her stumps, doth hold the basin that receives your guilty blood. You know your mother means to feast with me, and calls herself Revenge, and thinks me mad. Hark, villain, I will grind your bones to dust, and with your blood and it I'll make a paste, and of that paste a coffin I will wear, and make 2 pasties of your shameful heads, and bid that strumpet, your unhallowed dam, like to the earth, swallow her own increase. This is the feast that I have bid her to, and this is the banquet she shall surfeit on. For worse than Philomel you used my daughter, and worse than Procne I will be revenged. And now prepare your throats. Lavinia, come, receive their blood. And when that they are dead, let me go grind their bones to powder small, and with that hateful liquor temper it, and in that paste let their vile heads be baked. Come, come, be everyone officious to make this banquet, which I wish may prove more stern and bloody than the centaur's feast. So bring them in, for I'll play the cook and see them ready against their mother comes.
Oh,
A masterclass.
man. Man,
Come on, language. That was good.
It's really cool with this play, though. Like, you know, you could cast it any way. You know, it's so neat to see you guys play all these different roles over and over. You know, each of you having a go at Titus, and it's really, really exciting.
I have a soft spot for Tamara or Demetrius.
Yeah. Oh, you know, I was looking, these asides are really tough from a directorial standpoint. Where is that? You know what I'm talking about, Miranda? Oh yeah, where she says she has an aside to Chiron and Demetrius, and then Titus has an aside to the audience, right next to each other. And I'm like, what's going on right there? How would
Yeah.
you stage that little section? That's tricky. I wonder. I just was like, oh boy, it'd be tough to block that. And she has, because she's admitting, she's saying our determined jest. So, you know, Titus can't hear that. I don't know, maybe he does, but that it was an interesting problem that I was like, I don't know how I would solve. I have to look at other productions and see what they did. I wonder what Julie Taymor did, or if she cut that section.
She doesn't cut us. My recollection is that she sort of Tamara steps off with with Chiron and Demetrius, with his "What say you, boys?" Actually, she I don't think she cuts Titus's aside, because it's such great language, and
It
that
is.
a pair of cursed hellhounds and their dam, such a derogatory term for their. You won't even call her their mother.
Well, film
But
eliminates the problem. Film
yeah,
eliminates
because
the problem because
exactly,
you just do the
yes,
shot
Yeah,
you do a
totally.
close
to
up.
them,
Not
Yeah,
so
fair.
you have no problem.
Well,
yeah,
is
true.
Tamara at that point pretending to consider whether or not she'll leave them stay?
Could be. Yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
And
I really,
considering the
it's a
weight of
really,
the choice to let them stay as well. Like, when I was reading it this time as Tamara, I felt like this little, okay. Again, going back to that mothering thing, it's like we know this must happen. And like this awareness that this might be a sacrifice, because like she goes to them as an aside and it's like, okay, I'm leaving. And I felt like this almost like goodbye with the possibility I might see you again.
Titus makes a really smart move before, though. He says, or else I'll call my brother back again and cleave to no revenge but Lucius. And that is exactly what she does not want,
It never struck me before. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Andy.
It just occurred to me. What if she is so tickled by the way this is going
Exactly.
that she steps aside so that he not read her enjoyment?
Joy.
You know what struck me though in this is it's not in this scene. She's so concerned about the boys. That's why I was thinking. We talked about the concern as a possibility even last week, and this time it was like she was confident because she uses the word jest and everything. And I'm thinking, and maybe I don't know anyone who's seen this. When you get to Act 5 in the banquet, don't you think she sort of should be a little concerned of where the boys are? They should be at the banquet, right?
Yeah.
And there's nothing, to my knowledge, of her saying, "Has anyone seen my two hellhounds?"
And it's such a you're so onto something there, Tony, because that actually is a moment that we see it. We see it in Ovid. Teresa says, "Hey, where's my son?" And then again, I hate to keep bringing up Game of Thrones, but it's the same idea. Where's Arya serving Frey pie to Walder? "Where are my sons?" "Here, my lord." And one of my proudest moments as a parent friends was when my then 17-year-old youngest child, when she served the pie, she turned to me and said, "Why, here they are and baked into this pie." Yeah, exactly. Start them young, but that you're absolutely right. That moment
Is there a line in there?
here.
Does anyone know if there's a line reference to the boys in the last scene? I'll
There
look.
is not.
I'll look.
I don't think there is.
There
No.
isn't.
Very odd.
There isn't. It is odd. Wouldn't somebody start to get suspicious at a certain
Right.
point? But
And it's
that's
just,
not there.
does the Tamara start sort of looking around, looks at her?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, no, I know they're off to ravage another person. That's
Another,
of
and
course.
chop off someone
And I
else's
think it's
hands.
really
But yeah,
interesting. I say it's really interesting too because she asks them, and it's an aside, and so it's not a performance for
right.
Titus. He doesn't hear this, and she says, "What say you, boys? Will you do this?" And not saying that she's not forcing them. It's not a way of like asking a rhetorical question of, "Okay, time to grow up, time to like keep the lie up and save yourselves," or make it like it almost, because she does. It's an aside, and so I wonder, is it for playing that, oh, Titus, I got him? I just wonder.
Yeah, it's such a good point. I mean, does she have some kind of shadow of concern, that she really asks? Yeah, I think that's a question
And
that
then
has
she
to be answered in
instructs them,
performance.
yield to his humor, smooth, speak to him. She's still teaching them how to do the job and see it through. And so it still feels like a sort of rites of passage in the midst of this great plan to ruin everything that still has this uncertainty, even when you feel like you're certain.
Yeah, I wrote down.
Nice.
Yeah, I was questioning that section, and then I wrote down, "Well hast thou lessoned us." That comes a little earlier.
Yes.
Um, What was it that I was looking? Well, hast thou listened us?
Yeah, it's there on it's her first line. It's about 113. Yes. Well hast thou lessoned us, this we shall do. Um,
I'm
in
not sure what
response,
I meant by that note. I think I just something struck me about that line. I think I enjoyed it. But and then what say you boys? Yeah, exactly what we were talking about. And I wrote, oh, I really liked it. I liked how you you said we are the Empress sons, Charlotte. I loved your reading on that line, which is how it's written, but I've never heard it said like that before because
yeah.
they're finally giving up the game in this desperate moment, and it was beautiful.
They became
And
boys again.
I really enjoyed and when Titus says, "What would you say if I let you speak?" That moment, he almost gives him, and I just have this image of them like trying desperately to speak before he cuts them off with villains. And um, yes, beautiful,
There's
beautifully
something that
written.
I love with Tamara towards the end of this too, like playing with lust and desire. You know, it's like these things, like she's playing with like all these things that she think is working on Titus. Like, I'm gonna bring your enemies and they're gonna stoop and kneel. It's like so much play with like Titus and his entity and what builds up his lust and his desire. It's the blood, and there's something that's like grimy, but yet Tamara is playing with it. Seemingly, she thinks is working. It's not. But it was kind of fun to play around with that desire and lust for blood in this.
You had, I was thinking this while during your reading, Jamal, you had a very seductive tone as Tamara, which lent a very interesting resonance, I thought, to the theme. Yeah, that
And
came
that's
through.
also a weapon of war that has been used, and we forget
Yeah,
about the art of desire and the art of,
Absolutely.
and like these are tools again that comes up through the human experience of experiencing it all. It's what we do to get what we want and to get closer to it. And I think shame gets in the way and judgment, to be honest, with what it looks like.
Yeah, it was really clear. I really enjoyed that. I does anybody have anything further to add? I'm completely satisfied with that ending. I just thought it was so beautiful. Thank you guys all very much for your exquisite work again, as always. And
Can
I think
we
we'll
hear?
continue.
I have one
Go ahead,
question.
Jamal,
Can
please.
we say, can we just say, is it Lucius? Lucius? Sometimes I feel like I'm like going to Empire TV show, and then I'm like, wait, how do you say his name? Is it, which one is it? So can I hear the name?
I, I typically hear it pronounced, and I teach it as Lucius
Okay,
rather than Lucius. Lucius. Um,
awesome. Thank you. I was going back and
yeah,
forth, and I said, Jamal, you need to make a choice because Titus would know what he's calling these mofos.
yeah. Today, I think that's what we would say. The OP is probably Lucius, but I can double check. But let's say Lucius, right, if we
Thank
may.
you.
Yeah, I like it too. I had read it as Lucius before, but Tony said Lucius last week, and I just thought it sounded. I liked the sound of it.
That's another example of you could make it if you needed the extra foot. You could make it three syllables in a certain case,
Yeah.
and two
Sure.
in the other case. I think it sounds better with two syllable. I agree with
Mm.
Yeah, it
you.
does have a lot to do with scansion. We,
Yeah,
we had a discussion about whether or not it was Tamara or Tamora, but it
Mm.
scans as Tamara.
Tamara. Yeah,
Vicious tiger Tamara,
Tamara.
I think. Yeah.
And I also love when that happens because, like, I have friends who name her Tamara, and so I feel like it brings Shakespeare like to us today because we still know Tamara. We have Tamaras in our lives.
Lots of good names in Shakespeare. He was good at the
Miranda.
name. Miranda,
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah,
Too
very
he
funny,
true.
missed
right?
Jamal though.
He
Damn.
missed Jamal though.
Yeah, that's in the lost play. That's the
Yeah,
lost play.
It
love
might
it.
be.
Yep,
I love it.
we're running over our time. I think we need to
Oh
Yeah,
gosh, we're having so much fun.
we don't have our Nathan here to stop us, but
Right, you
thank you
don't
all
have-
very much
See
for
you.
your
See you
beautiful
soon.
work.
Be well.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great
Bravo.
week.
Thank you.
Bye. See you
Bye.
next week.